Let me tell you about Clara. She's a data analyst from Brazil and one of the kindest people that I know. But in meetings, sometimes people thought she was rude or even annoyed. Why? One word, actually. She'd say things like, actually, that's not correct. Or, actually, I already sent the report. She was just trying to be honest. But to native ears, it sometimes sounded sharp, like she was correcting everyone. So we worked on the tone and the position of the word actually, and then everything started to change. She still shared the same ideas, but gave a totally different vibe. And her teammates noticed. One even said, "Wow, you sound so much friendlier lately." What actually makes actually so tricky? And how can you use it to sound helpful instead of harsh? Let's break it down. I feel like actually is one of the words, one of those English words that people think they understand, but it often backfires. It's a chameleon word. Its meaning shifts and changes depending on the tone that you use, the position in the sentence, and the context and how you use it. So, what I'm going to do is go through the top 3 ways actually shows up in conversation and how you can use it naturally. And let's jump into it. So, first of all, we can use actually to politely correct a mistake or offer different information. You can do it without sounding rude. Okay. So, for example, you might say, actually, the meeting's at 3, not 4. Here's a tip. Use a calm and neutral tone with a friendly facial expression and actually can sound helpful rather than harsh. Because if you say it with a more annoyed sounding voice, it can sound very harsh. You may not even intend for that. Actually, that's a good example. Actually, it sounds like you're about to lecture someone. So you could say, actually, the meeting's at 3 instead of 4. So I had a client named Mia here in South Korea, and she used to say things like, actually, you're wrong. And she would do this in meetings. It wasn't that she was trying to be rude. She just wanted to be clear and to get her ideas out there. But the way it came out made her coworkers feel defensive. So instead, we practiced together, and I taught her to say things like, actually, I think it might be scheduled for 3 p.m. Or actually, I understood it a little differently. Can we talk about it or can I check with you? So just by softening the tone and adding a little curiosity, completely changed how people responded to her. And her boss even told her one day, you've gotten really good at giving feedback without making people feel bad. So I'd count that as a win, wouldn't you? Another way we can use actually is when something is unexpected but true, adding a new or surprising information. Unexpected but true. Like, for example, you might say, I thought I would hate the movie, but actually, it was really good. So what you do is you put the surprise, put the actually before the surprise, and that gives you the best effect. It adds a little drama and makes your listener pay attention. One of my clients, Harto, was terrified of public speaking. He had to give a company update during a team meeting and was visibly shaking his hands right beforehand. But after the presentation, everyone clapped politely, the little golf clap. And then he smiled and said, actually, I kind of enjoyed that. And the room burst out laughing, not at him, but in a good way. Nobody expected this guy who was shaking to use that simple term, actually, to show honesty. And it actually showed his charm and built a new rapport with his team. They saw a new side of him. So when you are surprised, you can use actually, and it helps you deliver just the right tone. All right. We also use actually to soften opinions or statements, okay? You want to express your ideas in a thoughtful and polite way without sounding too direct. So you might say something like, I actually prefer starting early, if that's okay with you. Here's a tip. Use actually to take the edge off of your opinion. Sometimes if you're too direct with your opinion, if I had said that statement, I prefer starting earlier, it's almost too direct. It's still honest, but it's too direct. So by using actually, we can shave off the edge. We start with actually, I prefer starting early, and then add an extra softener at the end, if that's okay with you. You're showing that you care about your partner or your colleague's opinions. You're being respectful even if you disagree with someone. So my student Ahmed worked in a multinational team, and while he is a great thinker, he would say things that were so blunt in meetings that people were often, they would just shut down. They didn't really care to hear his opinion. He would say things like, well, that doesn't make sense, or I don't agree. Even though his points were often valid, people just weren't listening to him. So we worked on softening those statements with actually. And he started saying things like, actually, I see it a bit differently. Or, I actually think another approach might work better. And after a few weeks, his manager pulled him aside and said, I really like how you've been sharing your ideas lately. It's very collaborative. Collaborative is a fancy word for working together. So remember, being honest doesn't mean being blunt. A well-placed actually can help your voice be heard and respected. All right? So remember, it's not just the word, it's how you say it. Practice using actually in different places and tones. And if you're not sure, record yourself and then listen back. See how you feel. And if you want a fun challenge, take one sentence that you say often, that you use quite often, and try saying it 3 different ways using actually. You will learn a lot, and you might actually start improving your connections. All right, so your challenge is use actually in a conversation or email this week, but use it strategically, okay? Correct someone gently, add a surprising fact, or soften an opinion. Then tell us how it went in the comments. And look, if you want to read this article and get more examples, check out the full blog post at allaboutenglishmastery.com. The link is also in the description. And if you found that this was helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who's trying to sound more natural in English.